Well, I'm ready when you are, when recording. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Mission Springs Water District Study Session. I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Director Grasha.
Here.
Director Duncan.
Here.
Vice President Martin.
Here.
President Wright.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pinckney, rules of procedure.
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the Board of Directors, all notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. All questions and remarks should be addressed to the president as the presiding officer. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. In order to ensure the orderly progress of board meetings, the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Time for public input. Dory, do we have anybody for this item?
No, ma'am. We have nobody present who wishes to make public comment.
Okay, we'll go into employee recognition, human resources report.
Yeah, that confused me. I thought, well, wait a minute, we have the committee meeting. It's number 10 or something.
I know, but what's this one for?
Oh, no, this is just our typical where we recognize
Okay.
the employees. And we do have two special years. We have a 25 and a 20 year for Don Mathine and Manny Rodriguez, respectively. But we thought we would try to patch them in maybe on Monday. Oriana and I are going to try to do that on Monday, and we can possibly talk to them and virtually and say hi and whatever, but we'll see if we can put that together. But we can do this,
Okay.
Recognition on Monday, and we'll probably hand the pins out to them.
I was just going to ask that 25-year, 20-year pin. There's two pins right now. Yeah.
Right, and I think we'll probably do that at them, maybe at the employee event or something. We'll see.
Well, maybe, and there's other ones in past meetings that probably there was a few during COVID when we weren't doing it. So you might do it for the whole year, maybe.
Madam President, we skipped the COVID update. Was there not a COVID update today, Arden?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
it was not.
COVID update.
Okay.
There was not.
No number on it, so I passed it. Okay, COVID-19 update. We'll go backwards. Thank you.
Okay. Well, essentially, I'll share with you a bit about what's happening at Eisenhower, of course, and that is the numbers were down. Tina got to close her ICU for the first time since March of last year, and there were no patients. The numbers are low, but they're not disappearing. They're down as low as they've ever been, just about. They're to almost nothing, but we're cautiously optimistic. We are, I often say reentry because this pandemic seems like it's put me into outer space. I can't seem to talk to anybody unless it's through a screen and whatever. So I call it reentry. We're going to be at a point where I would think somewhere around June, we're going to be, getting as close to normal as we might be for a while. I think the mask will be required, but I do believe that a lot of the restrictions are going to be lifted. Of course, the governor has predicted that all of the restrictions will be lifted on June 15th. I think Brian told me that DWA is requiring their staff to come back to the office on June 1st, and I think they're partially back at CVWD. We, of course, have been back, and there's going to be a lot of things we're going to learn from this. In some states, however, they're having a spike again, and So we still need to be careful, and we need to get vaccinated. So that's my advice to everyone. And that's really all I have on the COVID front. We really have no cases of COVID in the district right now.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy?
Yes,
I have
Yes.
a comment on this COVID-19 update. Do you want me to save it for director's comments or do it now on the subject?
well, go ahead. Go ahead. Do it now if you want to.
Okay, all right. I was listening to another district's meeting here in the desert. They did a survey of their employees, only got a small percent back, but 40% of their employees refused to take the COVID shot. I think, it's a personal decision. Right now, Johnson & Johnson has a halt on theirs because of some blood clot issues. No matter which side of the fence I go on here, no matter what I say, I'm going to be the bad guy. But I hope we do not get to the point where we require or think we're going to require employees to get a COVID shot to come back to work. My opinion, if you want it, fine. If you don't, I think that's optional. We don't get the flu shot or pneumonia shot every year. And that's my opinion. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your comment. Okay, I'd just like to name off the employees that have an anniversary. I don't think I did that. Don Mathan, our field operations supervisor for 25 years. Manny Rodriguez for lead water production operator, 10 years. Or, excuse me, 20 years. Lisa Pelton, customer service rep 2, 18 years. And Luis Santos, associate engineer, 4 years. So those are the 4 that have anniversaries this month. So now we'll go on to action items. Number 2, public hearing. That'll be held on Monday. Resolution 2021-05 to collect sewer fees on the tax rolls. I will turn that over to you, Mr. General Manager.
All right, and I'll have Matt kind of give you some more of the background, but we go through this every year. This is our 6th year of doing this. I think everyone of the districts. I'm not sure what Coachella does, but I think they do put the sewer bills on the tax roll. I know I've been paying, mine on the tax roll for a long time. It has worked well for us, and we go through this process every year, so it's routine. And Matt, you want to add anything to that right now?
Sure. Thank you, Arden. Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. As Arden said, this will be our 6th year of performing this public hearing to get the sewer charges on the property tax rolls. 2016 was the first year that we did that. This public hearing is a formality required by the Health and Safety Code to put those charges on the tax roll, which is the authority that we do it under. There is approximately $6.3 million worth of sewer charges that are going to go on the rolls. That represents the annual charges, 12 months worth of charges for all of our residential customers, which is in the neighborhood of, I believe it's 8,500 customers. And it also includes the city utility tax, for which we remit to the city once we collect it from the county. And just a quick note, we had a hiccup with the new Muni Code agenda system, and the report that details this 6.3 million did not end up in the packet, but it will on Monday. So that doesn't delay the public hearing. Just a FYI for today, I gave you the figures, but the report is not in the packet as of today. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll do that on Mondays. Anybody have a question? Vice President Moore, you guys just let me know if you have a question. Go like this or something. I don't have to call out your names. Okay. Okay. Steve, was that a question? Okay, go ahead.
I think I know the answer, but this is for all the bills. This isn't just for the ones that are slow paying. We're just blanketly putting all of them on there to collect that way. Is that right?
It's correct.
Sure.
It's all of the residential sewer bills, not all of the sewer bills, because commercial is variable based on water consumption, but it is all residential sewer charges.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 3, selection of district financial statement auditors. So I suppose I'll give it to you, General Manager, and I know you'll probably pass it on.
I'm going to pass it on to Matt because there's really not much to say. You've met this auditor, and Matt can explain to you how we go about doing this. As you know, every 6 years, we are required to change. And so that leaves us with, the option to use them again this year. And they did a great job last year. So, but I'm going to let Matt explain to you how that process goes. Matt?
Thank you, Arden. Just real quick, we did go through an RFP process to select these auditors. That was done prior to last year's audit. That was for a 1-year contract to kind of give them a trial run, for lack of a better term. We were very pleased with their service last year, and we're recommending that we enter into a 3-year contract with them, them being Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. I apologize. And there are also 2 1-year options in the contract should we decide to extend it past the 3 years. And all of those combined will still keep us within the 6 years rotation of the requirement by state law. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to number 4, CV Water Counts Regional Conservation Grant Program. Who's going to do this one?
Oh, yeah, this is exciting. Victoria's been doing a great job there. These are the interesting, the CV Water Counts is comprised of the original 5 public purveyors. And while Victoria's getting ready to tell you about this program, and this is basically a turf and toilet rebate program, but she'll get into that. And so we did do this before, as you remember, and it's interesting that we have a number of requests to do it again, because we actually had to return some of the money. Well, we didn't return it, we turned it into another grant. With that said, Victoria, would you like to take it from here?
Yes, thank you so much, Arden. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. So this is it's a standard MOU, Memorandum of Understanding agreement, and to authorize the general manager to sign it. And it's regarding Proposition 1, Round 1 funding that the Integrated Regional Water Management Group received through the CV Water Counts Conservation Program. And so our portion of this grant program is a total of $75,000. That would be $60,000 for turf removal and $15,000 for toilet rebate programs. And as you know, we launched the toilet rebate program back last June, as soon as we received our the award letter notification that the program can start at that time. And we've been providing monthly updates to the board, and the toilet program has been very successful. And we actually are also working with the Desert Cove communities to try to also swap out their toilets there. So this is just your standard memorandum of understanding so that we enter it with our other regional partners, and for also Coachella Valley Water District to be the grant administrator for the group. And open to any questions if you have any.
Did you guys use a point system or something to pick who gets what on these grants? How does that work? The CV Water Counts, how do you guys divvy up the grant money, I guess is a better way of putting it.
Well, we have I'll answer to the best of my ability. If not, I'll probably throw it over to Steve Ledbetter here on the call. So the CV Water Counts program, earlier on before we all discussed various programs or conservation needs for the district. And we had actually been receiving quite a few phone calls for toilet and turf rebate programs. And so we submitted for that. But Steve, I know you were integral at those meetings. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just add that other agencies put forth what they wanted out of the program. And we basically took our shot with DWR to say, hey, we wanted, I think the total program cost is about 1.38 million. So we asked for a small chunk, but other agencies, you know, they had a bigger need for turf replacement. There's some demonstration gardens and other toilet type replacement projects, water conservation projects. So it was really just what each agency thought they could use over the next, over the grant period.
And to add to that, actually, Steve, you bring up a great point. The total overall award that our region received was just over 3.8 million, with close to 1.4 of that being towards conservation related programs. And as Steve mentioned, demonstration gardens, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the, you brought up something I was had on my list of things. If everything goes right and if we move forward with the exact perfect new facility for the district to operate from, it seems that some agencies have included in those new facilities demonstration gardens. And I wondered if next time around we might, if we're moving in that direction, might be able to put in for a grant for the operation of one at our new facility if we move ahead with it. And I guess that certainly wouldn't be anything we'd be applying for in this round, but certainly next time around, I'd like to see us try to get that included. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, good suggestion.
Okay, so we'll move on then. If nobody else has any questions, we'll move on to number 5, acceptance of the purchase and implementation of advanced metering infrastructure system project.
All right, I'll let Matt kind of, while he's getting prepared here, basically I announced at the last meeting that we actually had completed the installation of all of the meters, which is 13,000 approximately. This was done quickly, and now that doesn't mean that we don't have problems. I'm assuming, you know, I mean, I have no idea. I've been told of nothing, but every week we, you know, somebody might drive over a meter valve, prevent the polling from happening. We don't know. I mean, there will always be certain little idiosyncrasies like that. So I don't want to tell you that, you know, everything is perfect but everything is pretty much going well. And I'll let Matt kind of give you a report on that. Today, all we are asking is that we issue the notice of completion and pay them the retention that we have. Okay. Matt, you're next.
Thank you, Arden. As Arden mentioned today, this action is strictly a formality to formally accept the project and consider it complete so we can release the retention and so on and so forth. It has been essentially complete for a few months now and functioning well. I'd like to thank everybody at the district that was involved with this project. It involved a lot of different departments and personnel. And there was definitely a team effort to get this accomplished. I'd like to thank everybody involved. It was also mostly completed during COVID. And again, hats off to staff for doing that, as well as the contractor that we used. It came in slightly less than $1 million under budget. So just wanted to point that out. It is, again, functioning well. We now have an insane amount of data, way more than we had before. And that's the kind of the next phase of this project, is to be able to relay that data to customers. Hopefully next month, we will be bringing to you the customer portal project itself. But again, today is just the formal completion of the AMI project. And that's all I have to report today, and I can answer any questions if you like.
Questions?
I have one, a couple of
Okay.
minutes. Is there, how are we going to be able to keep track of the battery life on those meters? Is there, I'm guessing there's not a display like you're on your cell phone or what have you, but has there been any advancements in that regard? Are we going to be able to know 3 months ahead of time before we start having issues with that, or do we have to wait till they just stop working? How's
Well,
that?
actually, there is a tool within the software and the equipment that we have in our field service department where we can look at the status of batteries. So that should not be an issue. And also any low batteries, we get warnings from the system that they're nearing, a low threshold.
Great news. And the second point I saw, I was listening into the Desert Water Agency meeting, I think 2 weeks ago. They were able to track down a $500,000 grant for their program. And I see Ashley's smiling face down here in the corner. And I wondered if we would be eligible for something retroactively along that line, and something I just wanted to throw out there.
Usually we're not eligible for retroactive expenses, but if you remember, early on in this project, we did apply for 2 different grants for this project. One was 300,000 and one was 2 million. We did not qualify for the 2 million, but we did win the $300,000 grant and are being reimbursed for that much. Granted, that is not a huge amount compared to the project cost, but we did work on that and did receive grant funds related to this project.
Great news. I know everybody's been working hard. I know the stress level over there has been off the charts for people. And I just want to say thank you. A job well done. And hopefully we won't have the same kind of issues we had with the last round of meters. And this will be something that we'll forget about and never have to face the grueling task of trying to figure out what to do with a failing system again. So thanks to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other comments. Okay, well, item number 6, Human Relations Committee report. Randy and I met with the committee. Randy's the chair, so I'll turn it over to Randy. Director Duncan, excuse me. You're on mute, Randy, you're on mute.
Most people say I sound better that way. Nancy and I met with Oriana and a couple of the other staff members. Our employees, as everybody knows, are not union. So we let them or encourage them or whatever the word you want to use, they get together once a year and put forth what they would like to see as far as a benefit compensation package given to them. This year they had a couple of items, some different dental options, boot allowance increase, some stuff like that. Those were all passed up by the employees' representatives, if you will. They brought one item to the board. And if you remember last year, they asked for the option when an employee works an hour overtime. Instead of paying them an hour and a half wages, they asked to be compensated an hour and a half in comp time off and let that accumulate. And that was approved by the board. That was a good idea on their part. We approved that. But we've always had a rule in place that employees can cash out benefits once a year. Now, the only thing they're really asking for this year is for the ability to cash out any accrued overtime accumulation more than once a year. Matt says it wouldn't be a strain for him. It would be, easy, maybe not easy, but wouldn't be a strain or wouldn't be a big expense to the district to do that. So Nancy and I both had the same immediate reaction. I think that's great. We both support it. We'll be bringing that formally to the board. Can we vote on that today or is that Monday?
Monday.
Monday, okay. Yeah, we'll that recommendation to the board in a nutshell, that the employees can cash out their accumulated time more than just once per calendar year.
Yeah, that was the only thing they asked for. They did mention another one. By the way, Oriana, it was a very good presentation at our meeting. Thank you very much for that. The only other thing they asked for more or less, is that to have some type of an employee picnic or family get together like we used to do. I know Randy and I both thought that was a great idea too. So I don't know what that would take, even when we could actually do something like that, but I think we also thought that was a good idea. So.
But we can do that on the staff level. And
Right,
yes,
right. Yes, you can.
And Russ Martin has a question for you.
Yes, I did. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I just want to get a clarification that this is contingent on staffing, and I certainly hope we wouldn't be paying overtime to replace an employee who's taking comp time off. So staffing permitted, I assume that that's kind of a given.
Well, they're not taking time off. They're cashing out their accumulated hours.
If they.
Instead of taking the time, they want to be reimbursed for it. And we would pay them that hour and a half anyway. So it's,
I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in fact, and what they were saying was that the cost of this program we had last year when it was set up, and it was set up for once a year to withdraw money that they wanted to, but they're just asking to draw it out more than once a year. And Matt said that because the program's already set up, it wouldn't be any big deal. So, right, Matt? Yeah, right. Okay. So anyway, so I thought there was very, very astute of the employee to understand that we still don't know what COVID's going to do, and that, we're still kind of seeing what's happening there. So thank you very much to all the staff. You do a wonderful job. We'll see what we can do next year for you.
One more item I should mention. COLA, we offer a cost of living allowance, but because this year was it 0.85?
Or 8.9 or something like that, 0.89.
Yeah, it's under 1%. So we're not going to address that now. We're going to let it ride until it reaches over 1, and then we'll make a move on that. But I saw one more. Steve or Russ had their hand up.
Was it Steve? Director Russ?
Yeah, just clarification. I chimed in on that meeting, and it seems like it had something to do with being able to collect other than at the end of the year. It seemed like that's what I heard. Did it also mean more than once a year, but they could do it during the summer, maybe during their vacation? They get it before they leave on vacation. Seemed like there was something more to it than being able to.
No, I don't think so, Steve. But if you want, maybe you can read about that program that we voted on last year.
You can let Oriana, provide some information to that.
I'll be happy to. I'm not quite sure what the question is, though.
Oriana, what's the program? The program. Describe the program that the employees are asking to do more than once a year to be able to take money out.
Our compensatory program allows employees to accrue up to 40 hours of overtime that they can then use, or if they don't use, they would automatically get cashed out at the end of the fiscal year. the employees are asking that instead of waiting until the end of the fiscal year, if they can cash out as needed, maybe around Christmas, maybe around a birthday or something, just as they wish. And that wouldn't be a tremendous additional imposition. Just a little bit of work, but it looks like it's quite doable as far as the accounting department is concerned.
And they would be able to do that as often during the year as they wish, or they will be limited to doing it at once?
As they wish, unless the board decides otherwise.
Okay.
And it depends on how much money they have accrued. Yeah, because, you know, they might not have much. Who knows?
Right, they do max at 40 hours, so. Mhm.
So it's got a cap. Okay, so
Questions?
did that answer your question, Director Gracia?
Yeah, it just seemed like it was going to still be once a year, but they could only do it once. Otherwise people would be coming in frequently and have frequent flyers coming in trying to get their. And I heard during the meeting that there would be a limit to one time a year, but they could do it at any time during that year. But if that's not what I heard, then I apologize for.
Yeah, right now is as often as they wish, which would be the case if they worked and did not wish to accrue it. We would still be compensating them at that time period anyways.
Yeah, but they get it at the end of the year. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they can only take money out if they have money in there, you know, so. Anyway, okay, so we're done with that one. I'll go to number 7. Number 7, we're gonna do on Monday, right, Arden? Administration,
Yes.
pump yard building update? Okay,
So,
right.
yes, we'll do that because you might want to make some decisions in this meeting, in the closed session meeting. So, you know,
Okay.
that'll be something then we can report on Monday. So,
Okay,
So are you saying there will be a closed session on this today?
yes,
Oh,
and so we'll vote on, so we aren't gonna have a report till Monday on this particular item after the closed session. Okay, number 9, regional urban water management plan, no, excuse me, number 8, MSWD regional water reclamation facility update.
this, I always enjoy listening to Mr. Steve Ledbetter.
Me too.
With the status of this project. We did discuss this at length on Wednesday. So, well, actually last Wednesday. Okay, Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Arden. Good afternoon, Madam President and directors. I do have some updates for you today. They are slightly different than what was in the agenda packet due to new developments. Matter of fact, I just spoke with the State Water Resource Control Board earlier today. So I'd like to start with the SRF update. The draft funding agreement, it has been hit with a little bit of a delay. Now it was expected sometime this month. Now it's not expected until sometime in May. And our construction eligibility date was kind of tentatively set for April. And now now that the draft funding agreement is delayed, it also has delayed this construction eligibility date. And if you recall, that construction eligibility date is the date that the district will be eligible for all construction related reimbursement, or excuse me, eligible for reimbursement for all construction related expenses. Part of the reason for the delay is the credit review and legal consultation process. If you recall, I've been the last month, or actually February and March, we've been pushing to get this legal consultation process started, and the state, frankly, has failed to begin that process. I know Mr. Pinckney and his team are ready to work with the state with any questions they come up with, but for whatever reason, they have delayed that process and haven't initiated on their end. I have spoken with our contact at the state and his manager about the delay and how they can get some corrective action to get that back on track. They've assured me that they're going to be pushing over the next week to begin that legal consultation process. And at that point, all wheels will be in motion on getting to this draft funding agreement. Once we have those two components, the credit review and the legal consultation complete, that will kind of signify our draft funding agreement getting routed through upper management for final approvals. And again, set that construction eligibility date. The credit review process is nearing completion. I was told it would be wrapped up sometime next week. I know Director McHugh, or Mr. McHugh and the rest of his team were very responsive to the state and got them all the information they needed. What they're checking with the credit review is making sure the district has enough funding to pay back the SRF and to pay for the long-term O&M of the project. So they're going through and just checking those boxes now.
Which we're very comfortable we can do.
Yeah, and of note, it was built into the rate structure, the current rate structure that we're most of the way through. So that shouldn't be any issue in that regard. With the state Water Resource Control Board's finance department going dark in May and June, that has no effect. So this delay with the draft funding agreement has no effect on our final funding agreement date. That's still expected to come through in August. So basically staff seems like they're just using up their available flux time because they know they just have to get it done by June so that the finance department can route it for processing in July and August. We're going to continue monitoring the timing of the SRF grant with bidding of the project. And we're doing our best to keep them on parallel paths to the greatest extent possible. But it really is a timeline with a lot of moving parts. And I want to share the graphic that I brought last time. Give me 1 second. So can you all see that bar graph, that colorful bar graph?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, shaking heads. Okay, so this is very similar to what we showed you last month, but everything's been pushed a month. We're still working through our bidding package, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so that means we're going to be bidding the project over May and June, and then we'll have July to review and qualify bids, and then that sets our 90-day award window for the board to take action to award the project. And what we're really trying to time here is making sure that that 90-day window isn't too far ahead of getting this construction eligibility date and the final funding agreement. We have a 99.9% confidence that the SRF package will be approved once we get through the construction or get that construction eligibility date and the draft funding agreement. So that coincides with kind of this yellow section that our draft funding agreement that's been now pushed into May, and we're not expecting that construction eligibility date in June, but that still gives us time, this 90-day window here, to get that completed or to award the project. So we just want to make sure you're aware that we may be out ahead of the final agreement, all signatures in place, but just so long as we're not out ahead of that construction eligibility date, there are really no concerns, at least, with getting reimbursed for any project expenses. We would just be spending out of pocket for a certain period until we could actually seek reimbursement when the final agreement's in place. So that's really what I wanted to show with that graphic.
We're expecting the final agreement to be by the end of August, right?
Yes, that date has not changed. We're still expecting that sometime in August.
Okay, thank you. Any of the board have any questions or comments for Steve? No. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Okay, so now number 9, Regional Urban Water Management Plan update.
We put these in order so Steve can actually just stay on.
Steve again. Okay.
But while he's getting whatever ready for this, this is an interesting time because this is the first time that we've done a regional urban water management program or submittal. And it's interesting because there are some agencies that have had their urban water management plan approved and some agencies didn't. So this is going to go far to be sure that we are all held to the same standard and that we all are, moving forward sort of equally, you might say. And we're all, and basically we are all subject to the same rules. With that, Steve, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm gonna pause my video so that I don't get any slow connection, but can you all see the presentation on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Victoria and I have been involved on this urban water management plan update for about 1.5 years now. And we're here to start sharing updates on what we're going to be coming back to the board with in May and June that will ultimately culminate in the approval or adoption of the 2020 Regional Urban Water Management Plan in June. And a big component of that will be a revised water shortage contingency plan. And that's due to new requirements from DWR. So what the intent of today is to kind of reiterate what the urban water management plan is and what some of the details are in the 2020 update and the water shortage contingency plan. So a little bit of background, the California passed the Urban Water Management Planning Act, I believe back in 2008, and that requires urban water suppliers in the state to adopt a new urban water management plan every 5 years. The first mandatory round started in 2010, the last update being 2015, and our current update for 2020. Now that covers all demand and water usage through 2020. So they give us that 6-month buffer in the beginning of the subsequent year to submit the report. So the urban water management plan is focused on your demands and available water supplies for the next 20 years. And what they're really looking at is the reliability of your supplies through any kind of drought cycles, impacts to climate change to meet your projected demands over the next 20-year period. It also encourages water suppliers to enforce or enact water use efficiency. If you recall, there was a lot more discussion back maybe in the 2010 and 2015 plans, the 20% reduction by 2020. That requirement was supposed to be met by this year. And I will report that Mission Springs has always been significantly below their required water use efficiency target. So we were already well below our target and have more than achieved our 20% reduction by 2020. So we're going to be in full compliance this year. There's no concerns there. Now, what's new for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan is the state has passed some new requirements, and part of that is a 5-year drought risk assessment. So with some of the drought that we've been subject to over the last 5 to 10 years, the state was only asking for you to look at a 3-year rolling average on the drought risk assessment. They've now bumped that up to 5 years just to make sure that if any of these longer lasting drought cycles, that again, your agency will be able to provide adequate water supplies throughout that cycle. They also include,
Yeah, Steve, let me just right
Sure.
there on that, which is interesting, is that would be in some ways easier for these agencies in the valley since we rely on groundwater. And so we're not so subject to those annual fluctuations. But nevertheless, we might be held to the same standard. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought that would be an important point for the board to know.
No, that's a very good point to bring up, Barton. We're also looking at now a seismic risk assessment, which are vulnerability during a seismic event to loss of water supplies, a catastrophic loss or interruption of water supplies. As I mentioned, some big updates to the water shortage contingency plan, which we'll be getting into on the subsequent slides. And another big change is coordinating with SGMA efforts. So as you know, we have 2 different SGMA alternative plan efforts in the Coachella Valley, the Mission Creek alternative plan update and the Indio Subbasin alternative plan update. So we'll be coordinating on things like projection, demand, land use between the 2 plans to make sure that they're aligned. The state wants to make sure that, if you are subject to a groundwater sustainability plan or an alternative plan, that your urban plan and your alternative plan or GSP are aligned. And then lastly, there used to be an optional requirement to look at the effects of climate change. That's now mandatory to evaluate the effects of climate change on your projected water supplies. We have a little bit of a different approach for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, and the water purveyors in the valley got together and decided to move forward with a regional plan. That includes CVWD, Coachella Water Authority, DWA, Indio Water Authority, Myoma Dunes, and Mission Springs. And part of the benefit there was a cost savings was realized by all agencies in doing this regional plan. So what that plan looks like is it has, some regional chapters that apply to the entire region, but each agency also gets a breakout chapter with information specific to them. So when we're talking about population, demand projections, and our urban water use targets, that will all be specific to Mission Springs. But when we're talking about the regional setting, the subbasins, and temperature and items like that, that's all going to be in the regional section. In addition, it's kind of taking on this collaborative approach to water use efficiency. We're all participating in various efforts on water use efficiency. We're already working collaboratively on several other projects and plans. So let's continue that through this effort. And kind of what I alluded to is the alignment with other water management plans. We worked regionally on the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan that was most recently updated in 2018. We have the Mission Creek Subbasin Alternative Plan and the Indio Subbasin Alternative Plan and the Salt Nutrient Management Plan. Those last three are all underway and going to be completed at a later date. But again, it's making sure that we're aligned throughout all these different water supply planning documents. Any questions so far?
I can't see anybody, so just speak up.
Okay.
No, okay, go ahead.
Right. On the water shortage contingency plan, so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized I could see everybody. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So the district's original water shortage contingency plan was set up by Ordinance 93-3. And that was really focused on some kind of catastrophic event that would lead to an interruption in water supply. Something like a fire, that we had to dedicate all water supplies to fighting the fire, or an earthquake event that would take out some key reservoirs, so on and so forth. But that was really how this 93-3 ordinance was set up, was more focused on those issues. And then if you recall, the state had passed some emergency drought regulations in 2014 and 15. So the district passed 3 additional ordinances over that time that focused on establishing new water waste provisions that were enacted and a drought surcharge. Now, those were only implemented during the state drought or emergency drought regulation period. So those have sunset when those emergency orders were recalled. Some of the water waste provisions, include, if you're going to wash your car, you have to have a spigot on the end. You can't water your lawn and have runoff, or you couldn't water during certain periods of time, like during the middle of the day. So what we're now doing is kind of a comprehensive update to the water shortage contingency plan that focuses on a response to a drought. It's not just this catastrophic supply interruption. It's more so focused on how we're going to respond to a drought or an extended drought as they come up. It's going to proactively identify, a potential water supply shortage, implement response actions to reduce demands. We'll communicate the water conservation requirements to our customers and enforce those conservation requirements. Some of the proposed changes in this 2020 plan include there's now 6 standard water shortage stages, which I have some tables on in the next graphic that'll kind of explain that. And each of those water shortage stages will have their own corresponding response actions. And this aligns with DWR's recommendations. This was part of their big change for the water shortage contingency plan, that you break out your water shortage stages into six different levels. And then regional alignment on the water shortage contingency plan elements. And that was something a lot of the local agencies desired. They wanted kind of, better consistent branding across the valley, so that if I'm Mission Springs as my water supplier, or excuse me, I live in Mission Springs, but I work over, in CVWD's territory, I'm hearing over there that I can't water on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Mission Springs is telling me don't water between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. It's more so aligning that the messaging across all the agencies to reduce confusion and ultimately result in better participation throughout the Coachella Valley. So the water shortage levels, our existing water shortage contingency plan only had 4 stages. It had a stage 1, which was a voluntary 10%, and then it ratcheted up to a mandatory 10% reduction, a mandatory 15%, and then it really jumped up pretty high to a mandatory 50%. And what we're going to be doing with this revision is aligning with what I mentioned that DWR is recommending, which is on the right-hand side, and that is 6 different levels of action that correspond with a less than 10% reduction in water usage, and then that kind of ratchets up all the way to a greater than 50% reduction. So we'll be looking at some of our existing programs and seeing how they transfer over into these new 6 stages. And then we'll also be coming up with new response actions that will kind of backfill how we can meet and achieve, say, a 20 to 30% reduction or a 40 to 50% reduction. There are several elements of the water shortage contingency plan, and a lot of them are going to be aligned regionally, but there's also flexibility for Mission Springs to have their own specific requirements. So when we talk about water supply reliability analysis, we'll be using the same methodology for each agency, but we can make specific tweaks that are unique to our area. Same thing with the water shortages levels and response actions. We're doing our best to align those regionally, but we'll still be able to make tweaks to the response actions at each level that we implement, and whether we feel it's going to have the same benefit as it would have in another agency. So we've talked a lot about internally about reducing outdoor irrigation. Now, there's not a lot of green plush lawns here that you would maybe see in somewhere like Palm Desert. So we wouldn't expect to see maybe a 20% reduction if we reduce outdoor water usage that you would maybe see in a Palm Desert than you would see in Mission Springs service area. We'll also be working on the communications protocols, aligning those, compliance and enforcement, but legal authorities that will be specific to the district, financial consequences of implementing a water shortage contingency plan that would also be specific to the district. If you recall, we mentioned in 2015, the 2015 ordinance that was passed, that was for a drought surcharge. So now that we've reduced water usage, we needed to implement a surcharge to try to make up some of the gap in the loss of revenue during the water shortage. So that's part of that financial consequence is something that we'll be looking at. In addition, any kind of monitoring and reporting that will be specific to the district. Refinement procedures, we'll be looking at that at a regional level. Other agencies may be seeing something being more effective than others, and we want to have that conversation regionally and then apply it back to Mission Springs. And then any kind of special water feature distinctions, and then the plan adoption, submittal, and availability, that would all be handled specifically by Mission Springs. So where we're headed with this ultimately is a comprehensive update to the 4 ordinances that we've mentioned. The original 93-3, the 2 in 2014, which were specific to different types of water reduction response actions, and then the drought surcharge, which was 2015-01. And then, as we mentioned, it'll include the 6 stages, the standard 6 water shortage levels, and expanded on those response actions at each level. There will be supply augmentation actions as well as demand reduction actions. And then, as I've mentioned, we'll kind of have regional alignment on the messaging for each of these actions. So our next steps are on the water shortage contingency plan. We're expecting the draft to get worked out over the next few weeks, and the public draft will be available by May 17th. So we'll be missing the next study session by a couple days of when the public draft gets published, but we do plan to come back and bring additional details in at the May study session. We're contemplating if we need, and we'll be looking for the board's direction on if they desire to have maybe a breakout workshop in June to get into the more details of this water shortage contingency plan update. But I'd like to come back, or at least staff and I have talked about coming back in May, giving an updated presentation, some more details once they've been ironed out, and then check the board's temperature there at that time for a breakout workshop in June before we ask for an adoption of this revised water shortage contingency plan. And then after that, we'll be coming back in June for the actual adoption or approval of the water shortage contingency plan. And that coincides with our schedule for the regional urban water management plan itself. So again, the water shortage contingency plan, that's a pretty big lift, but it's just a chapter in the urban water management plan. So we'll be coming back again. We'll be a little bit delayed on having the true public draft urban plan at next month's study session, but we'll do our best to bring all details back to the board. And then we'll be coming back again in June for adoption of the urban water management plan. It's due to DWR on July 1st. So that's our target date to get these 2 items wrapped up. So that's it for my presentation. So I'd like to field any questions.
Vice President Martin, was that a?
No, sorry.
Okay, okay. Director Grasha?
That was very thorough, and I'm thoroughly confused. I'm looking forward to listening to it again. So thank you for that.
Anything I can do to help clarify anything? I tend to go fast.
I only got stuck on one thing, and that was, and then I think I explained it away to myself, and that was why we would, on the legal portion of it, it was specific to Mission Springs. Is that because the plan itself that's specific to us would be? I didn't quite get why that would even be in there.
It's who has the legal authority to implement a water shortage?
Oh, okay.
The authority to implement response action. So that's specific to the district and their authority as the water purveyor for this service area.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, we have the consent agenda now. Anybody like to pull anything off the consent agenda? 10, 11, 12, or 13? No, excuse me. What's on the consent agenda? 10, 11, 12, and 13. Anybody like to pull any one of those for discussion? Okay, seeing none. Dory, do we have anybody on in there, the public, that would like to comment on one of these or pull any of them for discussion?
No, ma'am, still no public comment.
Okay. So then we will do that on Monday. Okay, number 11, Registrar of Demands.
That's part of the consent agenda, isn't it?
That is that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is. It is. Okay, correspondence. We have thank you letters.
Got one from Dana. And we did contribute to Food Now this year because we're not, as you know, every year they do the chili cook-off and my golf tournament. And those are 2 major fundraisers for them. So, and that was something I've done for almost 12 years or 13 years for them. And the last few times we've really raised a lot of money for Food Now, but this year we just increased a little bit of our contribution to make up for that, since we're not going to be able to have a chili cook-off or a golf tournament. It's a good program, Food Now is.
Yeah, it is. And it's specific to Desert Hot Springs too, I believe.
Yes. It amazes me how many people are in that line. And so it made me feel good to be able to be involved in that.
Yes, good. It's a good
For
program.
us as a district, I should say.
Anything else on correspondence, Arden, that you wanted to bring out?
Nothing. We did get some more letters, but we'll put those in next time.
Okay. So now we'll go for directors' reports. Number 15. Upcoming events and directors' reports. Did anybody like to do any of their reports?
How about Monday, since we have a closed session today?
Pardon? What, Randy? What was that?
And how about Monday, since we have closed session today?
Oh, okay. Nobody's coming forward,
Just
so we'll
Madam Chair, just to let you know, we will have at least 2 closed sessions on Monday.
on Monday. Okay. Okay, well, I can just do a little bit of mine here. I did let's see, where is it on this thing? Aqua Groundwater Committee meeting is in your packet. This time, the Groundwater Committee meeting, for the first time, they wrote a write-up about the meeting and what was talked about and the presentations and whatnot. So that's in your packet. And I couldn't do a better job than what they wrote. They did very thorough on it. So I'm going to use that as my report for the Aqua Groundwater Committee.
There's some good things that have come out of the pandemic, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It was a good meeting. If anybody has any questions on Monday, I'd be happy to answer them if you didn't understand something or whatnot. Then I'll do the other two, the Aqua Virtual CD DC conference. I'll do that on Monday. I didn't prepare anything there yet, so. And so we will go on now to the general manager's report.
Whoa, let me get my-
That's a long one.
I'm going to catch up here. The couple real quick things, and then I'm going to let Victoria give you a presentation on the public outreach / conservation, but you're getting a good dose of conservation today. Again, I just wanted to tell you that I will be gone for the May. I will be gone for the May study session, and I'll be, or excuse me, for the regular meeting. I'll be gone May 6th through the 15th or something like that, which is the following one week following that. I have to go back to Michael's graduation. And the only other thing I wanted to report that I don't think is it's in here, but I wanted you to know that we are starting to nicely inform people of the different ways to pay for their unpaid bills. And we're moving into that stage where, as we seem to go back to normal, we're going to have to nicely and compassionately work with these people that haven't been paying their bills. And even though it's not crippling, it's something that we do need to do. And so we're trying to work our way through that very carefully and cautiously. Okay, and then I guess, Victoria, would you like to do your report?
Hey, yes, thank you, Arden. Madam President, members of the board, so you will be able to find my report. I believe it's on page 149 within the board packet if you wanted to follow along. I'll just briefly go over, some of the more hot topic items. Of course, you have our standard CV water counts, digital report, our digital advertising report, as well as our social media report for the month. Happy to answer any questions on those if we have any. Also just wanted to highlight one of the unexpected impromptu outreach events that we had on the 18th of March. We received a call from individuals at the Carl May Community Center right when the temperature kind of started spiking, where it caught us off guard. Of course, now we're a little bit more used to the warmer temperatures, but we did provide water bottles for 2 days to the individuals that were waiting in line. And so I put here a small collage. This is Timothy Owens from production. And also wanted to give a shout out to April Scott, customer service manager as well. They helped to go out and respond to that call of action from our community. The next item that you'll see on the following page, just a brief update on our new website. So these are a couple screenshots of what our new website would look like with a tentative launch date of sometime in June. So as you see, our color scheme and things of that nature are a little different than our current site. Now on to conservation. This past month, we did provide 6 toilet rebates so that equates to about 600 in incentives for the month. So we are close to, I believe, 45 toilet rebates. And as I mentioned earlier, we are looking and have established communication with Desert Cove Communities, which is a believe they have said it's a senior living community. So we are excited to be able to switch out those toilets there. Also, we have our indoor conservation kits. So this past month, our digital advertising and our Facebook ads, we really targeted toilet rebates and conservation kits, especially as we start getting into those hotter months. So on the toilet rebate side, that we didn't see an immediate return, but we did have a lot of inquiries, and now we're starting to see those applications trickle in. However, on the indoor conservation kit side, in March alone, we had 29 kits requested, and that was within a period of 2 weeks almost. And so moving into the month of April, those two, that messaging is going to remain consistent, especially the indoor conservation kits. And we've actually partnered up with customer service so that anyone who receives a kit, that will be logged into their account, but also anyone who calls in and maybe they don't know how they could conserve a little bit more water indoors, or if they're having a higher bill, the customer service team is aware that they can offer them one of these kits, and we mail it to them free of charge. And then briefly touching on what Arden was mentioning about our outreach regarding those customers who have unpaid bills. This past week, we did send out to the board members as well as to all staff a bill insert that will be in our bills for the last cycle of April, first cycle of May. And it's a bilingual piece that talks about, one, the various ways that you can pay your bill, but two, all of the different resources that are available throughout the community. From United Way's Help to Others program, United Lift, Community Action Partnership with Riverside County, as well as United Way of the Desert's COVID-19 Relief Fund. So that is going out in all of the bills. Similarly, we are sending out a bilingual letter as well to those individuals who have unpaid bills. And we expect that to go out at the end of this week or early next week. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Yes, Director Grusha.
On the subject that wasn't in your report, but maybe you could try to remember back, because I think we talked about it before, on the subject of the wipes that are plugging up the pumps. Can you encapsulate what, as you might recall, what our outreach has been to get people to stop using those? It seems like it was just something on Facebook, or have we done any direct mail or any plea that would be heard by everybody?
Sure, we have done, you are correct, Facebook outreach as well as digital ad outreach. But our Facebook or our social outreach includes also Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. So we are covering all of those platforms. We have mentioned it previously in the January newsletter, if I'm recalling correctly. I'll have to check in and see if we have done any other form of direct mail outreach.
We are going to have a new newsletter here, and we'll be sure maybe to mention it again. That's a good point.
It just seems, I walked through the grocery store the other day and I saw the big long display of all the different choices and the beautiful colored plastic. And I thought, the people are walking by there and grabbing a couple of them. They're not thinking that, they don't know what that's doing on our end. And it just seems to me, because I thought, gee, if people knew, they wouldn't buy this stuff. And so, it seems like it would, looking at those pictures in the general manager report, those guys that are having to be cleaning those pumps every day seem like they might appreciate it if we maybe send a letter to everybody and say, don't use this junk. It's, costing us a fortune, and it's going to be related to them and higher bills, and tell them how much it's going to cost them extra a month on their water bill or their sewer bill, and maybe they'll stop doing it. That's what went through my mind in the aisle at the grocery store. So
I will say, Director Grusha, that this has been an issue that's affected water districts and sanitary districts throughout the country, but regionally with CV water counts, We have done messaging as a region as well. But I do know that it's definitely affected some of our local districts also.
I just want to say that I think Steve's reference to that is quite clever. We might want to use that for public, outreach when he says they don't know what's happening at our end.
And that's
Hey.
good. Yeah, I get it. Okay. That's Arden's joke for the day.
All right, I'm an engineer. I'm not the best joke teller, okay?
Well, I think maybe telling them to throw them in the trash can if they need to use them is the way to go. And that's what most, even how you see restaurants and what in the bathroom, just for regular toilet paper, asking you to put it in the trash can. They
Mhm.
have problems with their septic or sewer or whatnot, so.
I noticed on the registrar demands a payment for, it looks like the video, 4,500. Was that the entire cost or was it that just a portion or?
That video, no, that was the entire cost. But I'll need to double check that number.
Right, I think it was 45, which seemed to me to be a bargain for the level of quality that you got with that. And that was another thing I thought, for that kind of money, it's almost worth doing a video on the subject of the wipes. Because it sounds like,
It is something that the public affairs team is actually looking for next fiscal year, is doing a monthly video series of different topics. So
Great.
you'll see more coming from
I
it.
think those things are very helpful. It's the future. And congratulations again on a great job you did on that last one.
That has gone over, like Director Gracia said, that has been very popular. I've received a lot of very positive comments about that video, including.
Well, they're also clogging up septic tanks too. The people are having to, pump them and they're just clogged with those things. So remind people with septic tanks, they also have an issue with them. Just because they say they're flushable doesn't necessarily mean that's a good idea. Anyway, okay, Director Duncan, I saw your hand up. But unmute yourself.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm buying some property over in Arizona, and the sewer provider here has about a 3 or 4 minute commercial on Facebook about the wipes, and it shows them they've got this big separator that collects them all up, and they show how many are in there every day, and they've got to push to stop using those. But I wanted to thank Victoria. I saw your insert. Your presentations are always good. That's a no-brainer. But that insert to me was an offer to help. It wasn't a gentle push to, time to catch up on that bill. It really came across as, look, we know times are tough. Here's a bunch of options for you. How much you can get. Here's where to go. I think it was very well done. And like I said, it was an offer to help, not a push, not an insult. So congratulations, job well done on that.
Thank you, Director Duncan.
That's all I have.
I also wanted to compliment the bill insert. I thought it was well put together. And after Arden mentioned Food Now and some of the needy people in our community, I wonder if it'd be too much more to print an extra 500 or 1,000 of those to maybe distribute via Food Now. Just some more potential for some of our most needy ratepayers to see it.
Good idea.
Sometimes those inserts get tossed in the trash before they're actually read.
Mhm.
And then along the video lines or social media, maybe if some of that information could be either put into a video or just the same graphics be put on our social media. I think the more it's out there, the more people will start thinking about hopefully trying to catch up on their bills. But thank you.
Thank you,
It's a
Director.
good idea, Ivan. Yeah. Any other? No, okay. Thank you, Victoria. Good report. Arden, are you done with your general manager's report?
I am, and I want to thank my staff again too. I get to looking at this general manager's report and wow, I mean, I get so busy sometimes and they all ask me about these things. Sometimes when I'm walking down the hall, I can't compliment my staff enough right now. I think, boy, we are really really going, we're really doing a good job of keeping up with this. And when you think that we've done all this while we've been dealing with the pandemic and we don't have any COVID positive tests right now. So, wow, you know, thanks, staff. That's all I want to say, and do it in front of you. Thank you.
Okay, next financial report, Matt. And that's on page 201 of your agenda, in case you're trying to find it like I am.
Thank you again, Madam President, and good afternoon again to everybody. Brief financial report for the 7 months ended January 31st. In general, all financial trends are as we have discussed the past several months, and as expected. I have to apologize on the summary page that we usually look at. There has been a clerical error. The budget changes that we made at mid-year are not reflected on this sheet. Clerically, they didn't flow through. They're correct in the detail that accompanies this sheet, but this sheet is not correct. So briefly, the top row of numbers where we compare budget to actual, the variance for operating revenue that is printed here is approximately $2.8 million. That number should only be $467,000. So we're tracking a lot closer to budget since the mid-year budget changes that we made have been implemented. Again, nothing happened other than a clerical error on this sheet, so nothing to be concerned about. Expenses are tracking close to budget. The non-operating revenues are again related to grant revenue that hasn't come in yet, but hopefully we'll be getting word soon from the SRF that will turn around. Debt service ratio and investment returns are consistently good and bad respectively. Debt service ratios being good and investment returns being not so good. Cash position is strong, approximately $4 million above this time last year. And one other thing I just wanted to mention that's still kind of in the works, but I was part of a conversation the other day with CSDA, which is, most of you know that organization very well, but they are at a national level, they made efforts to try to include special districts as part of the most recent COVID stimulus bill. They were unsuccessful at a federal level, but they are now working with the state to possibly get a portion of the state's funds that came down from the federal level. And so they're working with the state now to possibly free up some of the state's portion of that bill to be able to help special districts across the state with COVID-related lost revenue or whatever the individual district has experienced. So just wanted to let you know that is in the works, and we will keep our eye on that and let you know if there's any updates to that. And that concludes my
yeah, Matt, do we belong to the CSDA coalition that is working on that topic you were just talking about, the money for COVID? That I was on a CSDA, or I guess it was California Special Districts Riverside County chapter this morning, and they were talking about that. The guy from CSDA, we'd have a coalition. They wanted everybody to make sure they joined that coalition, because the more people on it, the better they have to fight with this, trying to get the money. They're trying to get 5% of the money that the state gets from the federal government, which is a pretty good chunk. But anyway, so that's what they're trying to do. So would somebody check and make sure that we've signed up to be on that coalition, CSDA
Sure.
coalition? Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, district council report.
So as I mentioned before, we will have 2 closed sessions on Monday. At least that's the plan right now. One of those closed sessions will be to provide the board with an update on the Mission Springs Water District versus DWA litigation. And then also, I'm hoping that we'll be able to meet with the board with Tom Slovak on the Padilla class action case as well, to give you an update on that. And then today, there will be a closed session conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is 7.51 acres at 14866 Palm Drive in Desert Hot Springs. The agency negotiator is the general manager, Arden Wallum, and the negotiating parties are MSWD and Lee Woo Kyun and Take Young, Lee Chang Sun. Under negotiation are price and terms.
Okay, thank you. So we'll now go into closed session.
Director's comments?
Oh, sorry, there's no number on that one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Director's comments. Okay, Director Martin, or Vice President Martin.
Yes, General Manager Wallum, did you reach out to the mayor pursuant to our conversation today? Oh, yeah.
Called him and left a message, and
Okay.
he hasn't called me back yet.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Director Grasha.
Yeah, I heard at the planning commission meeting and the city council meeting that there was some a meeting within our district staff and the city staff regarding some I guess services that we may provide in within an area that's right now represented by CVWD, and I just wondered if we could get some kind of update on what that's all about. Also, yeah.
I don't know anything about it right now, Steve, but that's what I'm gonna talk to the mayor about.
Oh, well, okay, fine. The other thing is a can of worms that I don't want to open up right now, so we'll go into our other thing. Go ahead.
Okay, anybody else want to, director's comments? Yes, Director Sewell.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one. Both President Wright and myself, along with some of our staff, received a tour from Palm Springs Unified School District on their newer facility building. And I just wanted to say that was a fun tour. And I thought Julie Arthur, who gave us the tour, was very thorough and in detailed about all their different things for us to think about as we look forward to a new building. And I did want to double check. I know Brian mentioned he was going to send a thank you to Palm Springs Unified for that tour.
He did.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Ivan, for mentioning that. Director Duncan, do you have any final closing comments?
No, thank you, not today.
Okay. I don't either right now, so I guess we will go into closed session. So everybody, thank you for attending. Bye, everybody. See you Monday. The rest of you. Okay, now we're going out. Hi, Dory. You're in the breakout. What are you in? We're out of the breakout room. We're in the main room.
You're muted, Dory.
We lost Arden. Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Dory, you're on mute.
This whole time I was talking to myself.
You were.
Welcome back. Okay.
Okay, John, we're back from closed session.
So the board met in closed session only on the third item listed on the closed session agenda, and that was conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property 7.51 acres at 14866 Palm Drive, Desert Hot Springs. Agency negotiator, general manager Arden Wallum. Negotiating parties, MSWD and Lee Woo Kyun and Take Young, Lee Chang Sun. Under negotiation price terms, there was no reportable action.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget on Monday, tell them how much we paid for this property, Brian.
You just need to officially adjourn the meeting, President Wright, and we'll be all done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do have to adjourn the meeting, don't I? Okay. Yes, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Meeting adjourned.
A lot of good input. Thank you.